Howdy, folks. Spencer here, and as many of you know, the Lamarr Temporal Operative Science Dreadnought was added to the game earlier today on both PC and console via the R&D and Duty Officer promo packs. Now, the original blog did not include much information about the accessories, so I have the tooltips for all of them up on screen for you now. But the point of this video is to go in and analyze the Starship trait off of the ship, which has stirred up a bit of discussion as a possible fire at will extender. So in this video, I'm going to be thoroughly testing it and seeing if it is the FAW extender that we have been waiting for. As always, chapters to each topic are listed down below. And a quick note here, for the console and the hanger pets, I don't know yet how they perform, I just haven't had enough time to test that. But for the hanger pets here, it is a typo in the description where it says plasma beam array. It is actually a phaser beam, as confirmed by Kraust over on the builds Discord, where you can see it says phaser beam array under the Elite Nova pets. And heading over to the Starship trait, Starfleet Hopefuls. While this trait is slotted, activating Ensign Bridge Officer abilities will provide different bonuses depending on if they are engineering, tactical, or science officers. And if we scroll down here, once every 30 seconds when activating a Science Ensign Bridge Officer ability, plus 10 bonus auxiliary power for 10 seconds. When activating an Engineering Ensign Bridge Officer ability, plus 50% power recharge speed. And when activating a Tactical Ensign Beam Firing mode, plus 10-second bonus duration. And having now read that, I'm going to go through and answer the questions that I have, and I know many of you have about this trait. So we're going to start off here with question 1, and that is the 30-second lockout here just for science, or is that for everything? Let's hop in game and take a look. I'm going to hit my beam fire at will 1. I'm also going to hit immerse power to weapons there just so we can see a 30-second timer. So you see the way the trait works with fire at will 1 is that it just stays at 10 seconds until 10 seconds has passed, and then it starts to finally tick down. Now, when this fire at will is over and I'm able to hit it again, I'm going to go right back in and hit it. It has not been 30 seconds, and you can see that it's not doing the same thing. So that 30-second lockout is for everything there. So going back to the notepad, we're going to put down no for question 1, which leads into question 2. Is the 30-second lockout per class or overall? In other words, will you hitting an engineering ability block you from getting these science or tactical buffs? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit immerse power to engines. Then I'm going to hit my tractor beam. And I'm going to hit my fire at will 1. So you can see I got all of those buffs there. You can see a little jump up in the aux power and it just went back down. And you can clearly see that my fire at will was remaining at 10 seconds for quite a while there. So the answer to this one is per class. And question 3 is about the engineering power recharge speed. What all does that actually impact on the build? So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to go in and hit a bunch of abilities here, and then we'll take a look at the playback to see if we notice things going a bit faster. So let's go through this one by one. Does it work with captain abilities to lower their cooldown? So let's find out here. You see that my go down fighting is at 35 seconds. 34 when I hit the immerse powered engines. And for the first 10 seconds of that immerse powered engines, I should have that improved cooldown reduction. And you can see that by the time my immerse powered engines was over, there was no increased cooldown reduction for the captain ability. Okay, and for the innate ability and consoles, I can also see here from this testing that those do not appear to be affected by this. And then that leads us up to bridge officer abilities. And from the testing I've done here, it doesn't look like it's even working for that. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing. So the answer to question 3 is that it appears to be broken because it's not giving a noticeable power recharge speed buff to anything I have. And question 4 is what beam firing modes does this trait work for? Now keep in mind these have to be ensign ranked beam firing modes, so rank 1. So we know that it works for fire at will. That's something I'm going to be testing more here in a few. I can also confirm that it works with beam overload. And I also tested on the stream I did earlier, and it does also work if you stack Super Weapon Ingenuity alongside it. Though Super Weapon Ingenuity on its own for Beam Overload gets you 100% uptime on Beam Overload. So there's not really a point to stack it, but if you wanted to, what that'll look like is you'll get 25 seconds of Beam Overload rank 1. So if that's something you're interested in, then that's there for you, but not really practical. The next question is then, does this work with the target subsystem abilities here? So I've got all 4 of these, and I'm going to go through and test them one by one, and I'll be back with the summary. And the answer here is, again, fire at will and beam overload, of course, and it does also work for all 4 of the bridge officer based target subsystem abilities, rank 1, but the innate ones that you have baked into a psi ship, those aren't an ensign ability, so they, of course, do not work. But if you're using those target subsystem abilities, then this is fully compatible with them. Question 5, using just this trait, what is the possible fire at will uptime that you can achieve? The answer is 75%. So the way that you'd go about this is you hit your FAW 1, and that's going to be up for 20 seconds. And then as soon as that's done, you can hit your FAW 3. But the FAW 3 is not able to be extended, and even if you had a second copy of FAW 1, remember there's a 30-second lockout. So you're going to have 30 seconds of FAW, then 10 seconds of downtime, and then repeat. So that is a limiting factor with this, with that 30-second lockout, but you can use this to very simply get 75% uptime, but you do have to use a FAW 1. And just a mid-video edit, I'm moving over to Word here just to help increase visibility, give some different coloring on the text. So question 6, does the Fire at Will extension work with Vincent Kish and extend the upgraded Fire at Will that he will provide? So for those of you not familiar with Vincent Kish, this is a duty officer that has a chance to increase the rank of the firing mode you get. So you can increase a rank 1 to rank 2, rank 2 to rank 3. Pretty handy DOF to have on hand, but the proc rate on it is not that great. So I'm going to hit this a few times, and when it finally goes off, I will show you what happens. Okay, so it took a little bit of time for that to finally give me an upgraded version of FAW. I don't really use Vincent Kish much anymore because the proc rate, again, 25%, it's pretty low. I've had stretches of like 2 to 3 minutes go by where that DOF doesn't go off. And in this case, took about a minute and a half. So when I had it go up to the upgraded FAW 2, you'll notice it's not giving that increased duration. So the Vincent Kish off is just completely incompatible with this trait. It will cause you to lose the additional uptime. Next question is number 7. Does the FAW extension work with the FAW obtained from entwined tactical matrices, also known as ETM? That is the Starship trait off the Gagarin. It is a very popular trait for extending FAW's uptime, but it's a bit of a pain to use if you want to go in and use it properly. Find it here. So basically the way that this works is when you hit a torp spread, it's going to give you a rank 1 of a fire at will and cannon scatter volley. So I'm going to hit a torp spread here with the trait on, and I'll get fire at will 1. But will that fire at will 1 have the extended uptime? The answer is no. So this trait does not work with ETM. Next up is question 8. Does the FAW extension work with the fire at will obtained from precision multi-targeting? This is the Starship trait off of the T6 Recluse. And what this does is whenever you activate a target subsystem ability, it gives you a fire at will 1 and plus 100 accuracy for 10 seconds. So I've got some target subsystem abilities on, and let's see what happens. The answer is yes. You can see I'm keeping that fall one up. So that is working for the bridge officer target subsystem abilities. But the question is then, what does the uptime on that look like? These target subsystem abilities do have a shared cooldown. You can't use them right after one another. So let's take a look here. As soon as this ends, I am going to hit my fire at will 1 if it lets me. Hey, you can see my fire at will's ready to go. There's going to be a little bit of a gap here. So yeah, I mean, that worked. It's not perfect, but that is a little bit better than the base uptime that I saw. But still, that's a very expensive combo to go for. The T6 Recluse that this comes off of is a bit expensive. It's a lockbox ship. It's also part of the Carried Away Muds bundle. But in order to get the effect I'm showing here, you need to have that plus the trade off the ship. So probably not the route that most people are going to want to go down. And next up is question 9. How does this trait work with redirecting arrays? Redirecting arrays is yet another fire at will extension trait. And the way that this one works is that each second that you take incoming damage, it gives you 0.33 seconds of additional fire at will uptime with a maximum of an additional 5 seconds. Redirecting arrays does work alongside this trait. So you're going to see here that at 59 seconds on the VOD, I am hitting my fire at will. And, I've got the 20 seconds that we're seeing from this trait. And then I'm getting an additional 5 seconds from redirecting arrays also, which is the maximum potential it is listed to provide right on its tooltip. So the interaction, from what I can see, seems to be working correctly. You'll see that right around 25 seconds in, I then lose the fire at will. So 25 seconds up, and then 5 seconds of downtime, because even though you can hit your fire at will again right away, you'd want to wait that 5 seconds so that when you hit the next fire at will 1, it is giving you that additional 10 seconds with that. So it's a combo that certainly works. But 25 out of 30-second uptime, it's still not perfect. And the final question is, does this trait make fire at will better? And unfortunately, I have to say no. This trait, it's an interesting concept, but fire at will has a lot of issues. Fire at will was over nerfed about a decade ago because Cryptic didn't like how widespread, how popular it was within the player base. Rather than trying to buff up the things that were underperforming, they went for the high performers and just smashed them into the ground. Fire at will is the only firing mode with a 20-second global cooldown, and it's the only energy weapon firing mode that has a bunch of extension traits that all have some sort of catch to them that make them not really that great. If you look at all of the other energy weapon firing modes, they all have extenders. Beam Overload's got super weapon ingenuity. You just slot it and it gets an extra 5 seconds, giving it 100% uptime. You look at Cannon Scatter Volley, that's got Withering Barrage. That gives you 14 out of 15-second uptime. And CSV is far ahead of all these other energy weapon firing modes. And then there's Vanguard Specialist, which gives you basically 100% uptime on all of these specialization firing modes. And there's Go for the Kill for Cannon Rapid Fire. Fire at Will is the only firing mode that has this many firing mode extenders, and they all suck. Every last one of them sucks. You're talking about slotting multiple of them together to try and get as much uptime as possible, when for every other firing mode, you just slot one trait and that's it. So for the development side of things, they have a heavy bias against fire at will. And this trait, like every other FAW extender, is simply not the answer. And as for the trait and the ship, I don't recommend either of them. I think the ship is very poorly designed with its bridge officer layout. And for the trait, there are ways that they could buff it. They could change the 30-second cooldown it has down to 20 seconds. That would at least enable permanent FAW 1 uptime rather simply. The engineer portion of this obviously needs to be fixed so that it's actually doing something. And if they want to make this like a god tier type trait, then change the attack portion of it to hitting any ensign attack ability gives plus 10 seconds of bonus duration to all energy firing modes, or even just, to beam firing modes. And that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the trait. It could have been a lot better, but I think for the entire player base, it's probably best that we don't have like the ultimate fall extender on an expensive promo ship like this because these promo ships still are on average about $200 to get for a single character. Hopefully that's something that we see change under Deca, but we haven't heard anything from them yet. So that's going to be it for today. As always, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.